Welcome back. In our process to minimize sibling rivalry, we've stayed out of fights as much as possible. Welcome back. In our process to minimize sibling rivalry, we've stayed out of fights as much as possible. We took time for training in conflict resolution strategies, and when we did have to get involved in a fight, we did so with helpful adult intervention, using the process of sportscasting to help facilitate a solution. But sadly, the kids couldn't agree on a solution that everyone could live with. So now we know it's time to move on to solution number 4, which is called All in the Same Boat. All in the Same Boat is a tool we use when all participants in the conflict experience the same consequence. We know it's time to put everybody in the same boat when they can't work out a solution, whether it's an idea that you suggest or one they come up with on their own. We structure All in the Same Boat as a basic either-or consequence. So in the example of kids fighting over which video game to play, it would be either you guys can work it out, or if I have to get involved, you'll both lose the video game for the day. In that example, the either-or was a logical consequence that we talked about in session 3, and it met the essential R's. It was respectful. The consequence was related to the conflict. It was reasonable in terms of duration, and I revealed it in advance with my either-or. Another time it might be either you guys can reach an agreement on which game we'll play, or we'll skip family game night tonight. Or either you can find a way to share the popcorn, or we'll put it away and enjoy the rest of the movie without it. Either you can figure out the splashing rules for the pool that everyone's happy with, or we'll leave and go home. It's a basic either-or. Now, the idea of putting everyone in the same boat is extremely difficult for some parents because they worry it may be unfair. After all, if one kid started it, why make both suffer the consequence? But think of all the benefits of All in the Same Boat. First, it minimizes the competition between the siblings because with All in the Same Boat, there's no winner or loser. And because they couldn't work out a solution, everyone experiences the same consequence. All in the Same Boat encourages them to work together and cooperate instead of working against each other. They have more to gain by cooperating than they do by fighting. You might be thinking, though, but I know who's at fault. Do I still have to put them in the same boat? And the question I ask is this: do you really know who's at fault? You may have come into the room and seen one kid hit the other. You saw it with your own eyes, and so you assume the aggressor is at fault. But what you didn't see was the 20 minutes that preceded the blow-up when the so-called victim was relentlessly needling and poking and annoying her sister to get her attention. You didn't see the aggressor ask over and over for her sister to stop. But at a point of desperation, the so-called aggressor lost her patience and hit the so-called victim. And that's when you came into the room. So often we assume we know who's at fault, but we don't know the whole picture. We don't know what happened in the last 20 minutes. We don't even know what happened that morning, which would have created a fight later in the day. Now, that doesn't excuse the behavior of the one who hit the other, but the behavior certainly wasn't random. Siblings have long histories with each other, and if you let them, they'll tell you one sob story after another to justify their actions. But that's not helpful in learning how to handle conflict, and it only reinforces a victim mentality. And that's the second benefit of All in the Same Boat. It avoids moral judgment. Because we don't know who's at fault all the time. It's not our job to make judgments to decide who's right and wrong. Whether the fight is over who broke the toy or who can run the fastest or who took whose phone, our kids are not victims. They don't have to stay there and fight. They have a choice. They can ignore it. They can find solutions. They can walk away. They can get help. It's up to them. Remind your kids over and over, it's not important who starts a fight. All that matters is who participates. If you stay and participate in the fight, you're equally responsible. That's why solution number 2, training on conflict resolution strategies, is so important. Take time for training and role-playing with all of your kids on how to use their walk-away power, how to use their big, strong words to tell the other person to stop. Train them on techniques to calm their own emotions. Take time for training on whatever they need to empower themselves, to control the environment, and to control their own actions. Now, before we wrap up all in the same boat, I want to share a big, important caution. Looking at the 4 solutions that we've talked about, ignoring the fight, taking time for training on conflict resolution strategies, helpful adult intervention, and all in the same boat, it's essential that we use all of these solutions. It's very common for parents to want to jump to all in the same boat because it's expedient and it works. But when we jump to all in the same boat and use an either-or consequence, look at all the opportunities we miss. We miss the opportunity to ignore the fight and let our kids work it out on their own. We miss the opportunity to train them on conflict resolution skills they're going to need for the rest of their lives. We miss the opportunity for helpful adult intervention to help them facilitate and learn the problem-solving process. Again, life skills they will need. So while it may be expedient to jump to all in the same boat, please resist that urge. Start with ignoring and make sure that goes hand in hand with training. Use helpful adult intervention if the situation is escalating. And if all of that doesn't work and they can't figure out a solution, only then is it time for all in the same boat. And of course, more training later. Next up, we'll talk about how to handle conflict resolution with little ones. And then in session 6, you'll learn one of my all-time favorite tools to empower everyone in the family and reduce the stress and chaos of family life. I'll see you up next in the next lesson.